It still rings in my ears, even now. The bright, cheerful hum of the party, the clinking of glasses, the soft murmur of conversations. All of it just vanished, swallowed by those words. I was standing there, right in the middle of it all, a small velvet box clutched in my hand. Inside, nestled on a silken cushion, was my dear Alfred's gold watch. His, not mine. It was a piece of him, a part of our life together, polished and gleaming, meant as a gift for Leo. My precious newborn grandson. Not just any gift, mind you. A true family heirloom, a symbol of time, passing, of lineage, of love, stretching from one generation to the next. I had imagined the moment, how I'd place it gently in his tiny hand, how I'd tell Chloe and Mark about its history. It was a gesture, you see, a silent promise of continuity, of roots, of the only true wealth I believed in, family and memory. Then Chloe spoke. Her voice, usually so sweet when she wanted something, was clear and sharp, cutting through the festive air. She was surrounded by her friends, all elegance and bright laughter, their faces lit up by the chandeliers, and she looked right at me, a quick, dismissive glance, almost as an afterthought. "The best gift my mother could give me today," she announced, her smile wide and bright for her friends, "was simply to disappear." And then their laughter. It echoed, bouncing off the high ceilings, a wave of mirth. But for me, it was the sound of utter silence, a complete, deafening silence that settled deep in my chest, heavy and cold, like a stone in an empty well. My smile, the one I always keep ready, felt like a brittle thing, a mask I'd put on years ago and forgotten how to take off. It didn't reach my eyes, not even close. My eyes felt hollow, seeing everything and nothing at all. I didn't argue, I didn't shout, I didn't even whisper. I just stood there for a moment, the velvet box still in my hand, feeling the weight of it, the weight of everything. Then I put the box back into my coat pocket, the small gesture a private surrender. I turned slowly, deliberately, and walked towards the exit. I left the party exactly as she asked. I left the beautiful baptism cake still untouched, with its delicate sugar flowers. I left the chattering guests, their backs to me oblivious. And I left my heart there too, or what was left of it, scattered in a million tiny pieces on the gleaming marble floor of that grand hall. They probably thought I was going home, defeated and humiliated, to curl up in my armchair and cry myself to sleep. They likely imagined me as just a fragile old lady, her spirit broken, someone they could easily cast aside, like an old, worn-out blanket when it was no longer useful, a burden quietly removed. But they were so wrong, so utterly, completely wrong. What they didn't know, not then, was that by sending me away like that, by so carelessly kicking me out of a party, they weren't just discarding a person. They were giving up everything I silently, steadfastly represented in their lives. Every single thread, every hidden support, every quiet foundation. Oh, I left, yes. I walked out into the cool evening air, the sound of their laughter fading behind me. But I took something with me too, something they couldn't see, couldn't touch, couldn't even begin to imagine. It was a secret, a quiet, powerful truth that had been lurking beneath the surface all along. And it was about to teach them the true value of things in a way that would shake their very world, a way they would never ever have expected. That night, walking away from all of it, with the chill of the evening air on my face and the cold silence in my heart, I finally understood. The boundless, unconditional love I had so freely given them all these years, pouring it out without a second thought, without ever asking for anything in return. It wasn't free at all. It had a price, a very real, very high price. And they were about to find out exactly what that price was. My name is Eleanor. I'm 72 years old now, and I was a teacher my entire life. It was a good life, full of children and books and the quiet satisfaction of shaping young minds. After my dear Alfred, my husband, passed away more than 10 years ago, my world narrowed a bit. My only joy truly became caring for Chloe, my only daughter. She was my everything, my reason for being. I lived on my modest teacher's pension, you see. But there was always a little something extra, an extra income, as I used to call it. Just a little cushion, a quiet blessing that Alfred and I had put aside years ago. It was with this money that I paid for Chloe's health insurance, making sure she was always covered. It helped with the bills for her apartment, the ones she and Mark, my son-in-law, sometimes struggled with. And it bought the beautiful furniture for my grandson Leo's room, making sure everything was perfect for his arrival. My precious Leo, Chloe's little boy, everything for them. Luxury? Oh, I never cared for any of that. My own house, it's always been simple, full of warmth. Oh, full of picture frames with memories smiling back at me, and little crocheted doilies I made myself, just like my mother taught me. Chloe and Mark, they'd often say I needed to modernize, that my ways were old-fashioned. I never minded their words, not really. I just thought it was their way of worrying about me in their own modern way. Discreetly, very quietly, I kept track of all the investments Alfred and I had made over the years. My Alfred, he was a wise man. He always used to say, "Eleanor, knowledge is power, but well-managed finances are freedom." He was right, wasn't he? This extra income I mentioned? It came from an old investment, just like I told Chloe. An old investment of her father's, a property we'd bought so many years ago. It brought in a quiet, steady rent, just enough to help out, you know? To them, I was just Eleanor, the retired mother, the grandmother who always had a cornmeal cake ready when they visited. And honestly, that's how I liked it. It was my quiet corner in their lives. Little did they know, not a clue, that the comfortable life they led, the very ground they walked on, was built, brick by brick. With my silence and my careful planning, all those years, I thought I was laying down the path for a secure future for them. Future where they'd never have to worry. But the truth? In reality, I was just financing the very ingratitude that was waiting for me, silently, patiently, to reveal itself. In the months leading up to Leo's baptism, that quiet, steady rhythm of my life with Chloe and Mark, my son-in-law, started to shift. It wasn't a sudden tremor, but a slow, almost imperceptible change, like the tide quietly pulling away from the shore. Chloe's calls, which used to be a chance for a chat, a check-in, became shorter, so much shorter. And they were always, always more to the point, almost always to ask for something. It began subtly enough. A request for help with imported baby clothes she just had to have for Leo, something special. Then, it was a plea for help with the down payment for a new car Mark really wanted. After that, the first installment for the baptism decorations, because, she explained, they simply had to make it perfect for Leo's big day. The simple, loving, "Mom, how are you?" that used to start our conversations, it just disappeared. It was replaced very quickly by a crisp, almost businesslike, "Mom, I need a favor." My heart would sink a little each time, but I always told myself, it's just a phase. New baby, new expenses. They needed me. Mark, my son-in-law, he became even colder, if that was even possible. When I'd visit them, which was less and less often, he barely moved from in front of the television. His answers to my questions were always monosyllables, grunts, nods, sometimes a vague shrug. It was like I wasn't even there, a ghost in their living room. One afternoon, I remember it so clearly. I was in the kitchen, making tea, and I heard him. His voice was low but sharp, coming from the next room where he was talking to Chloe. "Your mother has no clue," he said, and my breath caught in my throat. "She thinks we live on the little she has. She's holding us back." Those words, they were like knives, each one twisting in my chest. Cold, sharp pain. But what do you do? I swallowed the pain, just like I had swallowed so many other little hurts over the years. I told myself it was the stress of having a young child, the pressure of work, the endless bills. They were just tired, I reasoned. They didn't mean it. They loved me deep down. I had to believe that. The last straw, the final little piece that chipped away at my heart, came when I suggested something so simple, so practical. We were talking about Leo's baptism, and the expenses were clearly piling up. "Chloe," I offered gently, "why don't you hold the baptism here, in my garden? We could save so much money, and it's lovely this time of year." I pictured it. Sun filtering through the leaves, little white chairs, happy faces. Chloe looked at me, and then she laughed. Not a warm, amused laugh, but a short, disdainful sound. It was dismissive. "Mom, for heaven's sake," she said, almost rolling her eyes. "In your backyard? My friends are important, Mom. We need a fitting place, something grand." She then waved her hand dismissively, as if to brush away my foolish idea. "Don't worry," she continued. "I've already found the perfect place. It's a beautiful hall. You don't need to worry about anything." I just nodded. I agreed outwardly, but inside, a knot formed in my chest, a tightness that spread, making it hard to breathe. It was a terrible, creeping sense that I was slowly, silently, being erased from their lives, one suggestion at a time, one request at a time, one dismissive laugh at a time. It was as if I was shrinking, becoming smaller and smaller in their world, fading away. I kept helping. I just kept helping, giving whatever they asked for, believing with every fiber of my being that my love, my quiet, steadfast love, would be enough to bring them back. I thought it would show them, eventually, how much I cared, how much I sacrificed. I didn't realize then that each help I gave, each dollar I offered, each silent agreement was just one more step out of their lives, not one more step in. The day of the baptism arrived, and truly, the event venue was stunning, just as I knew it would be. Chloe had said she found the perfect place, and she had. I remember putting on my best dress that morning, the blue one Alfred always liked, and in my coat pocket, the small velvet box felt heavy. Inside, nestled on that silken cushion, was Alfred's gold watch. It was my gift for Leo, my precious grandson. Not just any gift, mind you, a family heirloom, a symbol of time passing, of lineage, of love stretching from one generation to the next. I had imagined the moment, how I'd place it gently in his tiny hand, how I'd tell Chloe and Mark about its history. It was a gesture, you see, a silent promise of continuity, of roots, of the only true wealth I believed in, family and memory. I saw Chloe across the room, surrounded by her friends. They were all elegance and bright laughter, their faces lit up by the chandeliers. I walked towards her, the velvet box clutched in my hand, a silent offering of love. As I approached, Chloe looked at the small box in my hand. Her expression was tired, almost annoyed, as if I was interrupting something important. "Mom, not now," she said. A quick, dismissive glance, almost an afterthought. "And I hope it's cash, because this party cost a fortune." My heart tightened, a familiar ache, but I just offered a small, knowing smile, trying to bridge the distance between us. That's when one of her friends, a young woman with a kind face, leaned in and asked Chloe, "So, Chloe, with all these wonderful gifts, what do you truly want today?" And Chloe, she didn't even hesitate. She looked directly at me, her eyes meeting mine for just a fraction of a second, before her gaze swept over her friends again, a wide, bright smile on her face. Her voice was clear and sharp, cutting through the festive air, loud enough for me and everyone else to hear. "The best gift my mother could give me today," she announced, "was simply to disappear." The laughter that followed was instant, bright, and loud. It echoed, bouncing off the high ceilings, a wave of mirth. To them, it was just a harmless joke, a little witticism, part of the party's cheerful hum. But for me, it was public. Humiliation, silent, and utterly, brutally definitive. My daughter, my own Chloe, had just wished me away. No one, not a single soul, defended me. Mark, my son-in-law, he was standing right there, just a few steps away, witnessing it all. He just looked away, his gaze fixed on some distant point, avoiding my eyes. The friends continued to laugh, oblivious, or perhaps uncaring, to the quiet devastation in front of them. In that instant, I felt no anger, not a flicker of rage, and oddly, no overwhelming sadness either. Instead, a cold, sharp clarity settled over me, chilling me to the bone. It was like a sudden, profound realization, undeniable and absolute. I no longer belonged there, not in that room, not in that family. I was extraneous, a piece that no longer fit their perfect, shiny puzzle. Without saying anything, without a sound, I simply put the velvet box with Alfred's precious watch back into my coat pocket. The small gesture was a private surrender, a quiet acknowledgement of what had just been said, what had just happened. I turned around, slowly, deliberately, and walked towards the exit. I walked with the dignity I still had left, every step a quiet statement of my truth. The party continued, the laughter, the music, the clinking of glasses. It continued as if I had never existed, as if I had simply vanished, just as Chloe had wished. As I reached the grand double doors of that stunning venue, the ones Chloe had picked as the perfect place, I pushed one open, feeling the cool evening air on my face. The hum of the party, the sound of their continued merriment faded behind me. It wasn't just leaving a party. It was more than that. It felt like I was closing the door on the entire life I had so carefully, so painstakingly built for them. A life of quiet support, of hidden foundations. And now I was walking away from it all. As I closed the venue door behind me, I wasn't just leaving a party. I was closing the door on the life I had built for them. The taxi ride home was quiet, a gentle hum against the fading light of the day. Inside, though, it was even quieter. My mind, which for so many years had been a constant buzz of their needs, their wants, their endless little problems, was now strangely still. I didn't shed a tear, not a single one. The pain, that raw public humiliation, it was there, yes, a dull ache behind my ribs, but it didn't consume me. Instead, it sharpened everything. It gave way to a quiet, resolute calm, a stillness that felt almost powerful. I remembered Alfred's words, clear as if he were sitting right beside me. "Never make a decision in the heat of the moment, Eleanor," he used to say, his hand warm over mine. "Breathe and remember who you are." And in that silent taxi, as the city lights blurred past, I breathed. And I remembered. I remembered the young woman I was, standing beside him, building a life, dreaming big, working hard. I remembered the strength I had, the quiet determination that had seen me through so much. I remembered Eleanor. When the taxi finally pulled up to my simple, familiar house, I didn't linger. I walked straight inside, past the living room with its doilies and picture frames, and went directly to the small desk in the corner of my bedroom. It's where I kept my most important documents, neatly organized, just as Alfred taught me. My hands, surprisingly steady, reached for the old leather folder, the one I'd placed there decades ago. I pulled it out, slowly, deliberately. And there it was, the deed to the event venue, the very same one where the party, the one I'd just been ejected from, was still in full swing. My eyes traced the elegant script, the formal language, until they landed on the name. Clear as day, bold and undeniable, Eleanor Davies. Sole owner, just my name and Alfred's, right there on the paper, linking us still. a quiet certainty settled over me, deep in my bones. I remembered the lease agreement, the careful terms I'd managed myself all these years. I remembered the steady stream of rent money landing in my account every single month. That money, the very money that paid for Chloe's health insurance, the money that helped with her apartment bills, the money that bought furniture for Leo's room, the money that, just weeks ago, covered the first installment for the baptism decorations, and surely paid for the grand hall they were celebrating in right now. It was all so clear. Their comfortable life, all those luxuries, all that ease they took for granted, it flowed from this single, quiet source. My source. They saw me, didn't they? They saw me as a burden, an old-fashioned woman stuck in her ways, a dependent old lady, someone to be tolerated, perhaps, but certainly not respected, someone to be wished away. They had completely forgotten the woman who, alongside her loving husband, had worked tirelessly, quietly, year after year, to build something substantial, an estate, a future. They forgot that a mother's true strength isn't always in her arms, isn't in loud demands or public displays. Sometimes the most powerful strength of all lies in silent wisdom, in foresight, in planning. In that moment, standing by my old desk, the deed in my hand, a profound decision solidified within me. There would be no yelling, no desperate pleas, no cries for revenge, no theatrical scenes. That wasn't my way. That wasn't Eleanor. There would only be the quiet, undeniable consequence of their own actions, the natural outcome of their ingratitude. They gave me the gift of disdain, dismissing me with a careless laugh. And I decided, right then and there, and I would reciprocate. I would give them a gift too, the gift of reality. The days that followed that evening blurred into a kind of soft, echoing silence. It wasn't the silence of peace, not yet. It was the absence of sound, the absence of connection. No phone calls came, no worried texts, no hurried messages asking if I was okay, if I'd made it home safely. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. To them, I had indeed disappeared, just as Chloe had so casually, so publicly wished. I was gone, erased, and they didn't seem to notice or care. Their lives, I knew, continued on. Busy, important lives, full of plans and new baby demands. All still, without their knowing, silently financed by me. My quiet contributions kept the wheels turning, kept their comfortable world spinning. And that was the cruelest cut. The public humiliation at the party had been a sharp, stinging slap. It left a mark, yes, but this indifference, this utter lack of curiosity or concern in the days that followed, it hurt more, much more. It confirmed in a way that nothing else could, that my value to them was purely, simply functional. I was a resource, a tool, nothing more. When I wasn't useful, I was invisible. A week passed, 7 long days, each one stretching out, filled with my thoughts and the quiet hum of my old house. Then the phone buzzed. A message. Not an apology. No, not that. It was from Mark. His words popped up on the screen, cold and direct. a sudden jolt in the quiet. It wasn't even a question. It was a demand, plain and simple. Eleanor, it read, the catering bill for the party arrived and it's higher than we thought. Can you cover the difference? Chloe is very stressed with the bills. My fingers tightened around the phone. The words sat there, bold and unfeeling. They just assumed, didn't they? They assumed I would. They assumed I always would. This message, it was the confirmation I needed, stark and undeniable. The last fragile thread of what I thought was love, of what I had desperately clung to as a family bond, had snapped. It was gone. All that remained, all that they seemed to recognize, was the bond of interest. My financial interest in their lives, and theirs in mine. A wave of loneliness, vast and cold, washed over me then. It wasn't just a feeling. It felt physical, like a heavy blanket pulled tight around me, pressing down. I looked up, my eyes drawn to the bookshelf in my living room. There, nestled among my favorite books, were the photographs. Old, familiar faces, moments frozen in time. Chloe as a child, her bright, curious eyes looking up at me, nestled safely in my lap. Another photo, a little worn at the edges, of the three of us, Alfred, Chloe, and me, smiling, truly smiling, on Alfred's last birthday. We looked so happy, so complete, a family. Where was that family now? The question wasn't spoken aloud, but it echoed in the empty spaces around me. It hit me then with a force that took my breath away. I had been alone for a long time, hadn't I? Not just in the quiet of my house, but in the heart of my own family. I had been alone in my efforts, in my quiet sacrifices, in my unseen support. I just hadn't realized it. I had been so busy giving, I hadn't seen how little I was receiving. The pain, that raw, aching pain, reached its absolute peak in that moment. It was a deep, searing realization, but it didn't bring me down. No. This pain, this profound, undeniable loneliness, it wasn't there to break me. It was the very thing that gave me the final, resolute push. The push I needed to do what was necessary. They didn't want the mother. They wanted the subsidy. And I was about to cut off the source. My mind was clear. The pain had sharpened everything, not dulled it. They wanted the subsidy, not the source of it, not the person behind it. And that was a truth I could finally work with. My fingers, steady despite the quiet trembling deep inside, typed out a simple message to Mark. It wasn't a question, not a plea, not an offer of help. It was an invitation, plain and direct. Meet me tomorrow at 10 a.m. at the event venue. We need to talk. I didn't add anything else. No explanation, no hint of what was to come. Just those few words. A quiet summons. I knew they would come. They always did, when they thought there was money involved. I could almost picture their faces, an air of impatient expectation already setting in. They would be expecting me to hand over an envelope, perhaps with a little more cash than they'd asked for. Maybe even an apology for having ruined the baptism party by leaving. That's what they'd think. That's what they'd always thought of me. The generous, slightly befuddled old lady who simply existed to smooth over their financial bumps. The next morning, I arrived a little early. The hall was empty, echoing with the memory of their laughter, the very laughter that had pierced me just a week ago. I sat at one of the small, elegant tables, the kind they used for guests to place their gifts. And there it was, sitting in front of me, in a simple leather folder, not hidden away, not dramatized, just there. Then I heard them, footsteps echoing in the grand entrance. Chloe and Mark. They walked in, Chloe looking around with an almost proprietary air, as if inspecting her domain. She didn't even look at me, not directly. Her gaze swept over the empty hall, a faint frown on her face. Mark, ever the pragmatist, went straight to the point, his voice a little clipped, a little impatient. "So, Eleanor," he said, not even a greeting, "decided to help us?" There was an almost audible sigh of expectation in his tone. He already assumed the answer. I met his gaze, my own eyes calm, clear, unblinking. I looked at Chloe, who was still avoiding my eyes, her attention flitting to something on the far wall. And then, with all the calmness in the world, a quiet, resolute calm that surprised even me, I placed the leather folder flat on the table, sliding it gently towards them. "I came to give you the gift you asked for, my daughter," I said, my voice soft but firm, steady as a rock. "I will disappear." Chloe's head snapped up. Her eyes finally met mine. They brightened for an instant, a flash of something that looked like relief, even triumph. She must have thought I was finally yielding, retreating into my little corner for good. The old lady had finally given up. But then I continued, my voice gaining a quiet strength that filled the vast hall. "But first," I said, "I want to introduce you to the owner of this place." I opened the folder, slowly, deliberately, not looking at them, but at the document itself. I slid the property deed across the polished table, pushing it gently until it lay directly in front of them, open for them to see. And there it was, not a trick, not a surprise, just the undeniable truth. Written in black and white, the name Eleanor Davies was clear, in bold letters, right there, as the sole owner. The shock on their faces was truly indescribable. It was a masterpiece of disbelief, slowly morphing into something akin to horror. Chloe, who had been so vibrant, so dismissive just moments ago, turned utterly pale. The color drained from her cheeks, leaving her looking stark and fragile, like a crumpled piece of paper. Her jaw dropped, just slightly, but enough to show the utter stunned silence that had fallen over her. Mark, usually so composed, so sure of himself, stammered. He tried to speak, tried to form a sentence, but no words came out. Just a strangled sound, a gaping silence. His eyes darted from the deed to me, back to the deed, then to Chloe, as if seeking an explanation from her, a way out of this impossible reality. I let the silence hang there for a moment, letting the truth sink in, letting them truly see it. Then I spoke again. My voice was firm, steady, without a trace of anger, only a quiet, undeniable authority. "The rent from this venue," I stated, each word clear and deliberate, "pays for your car, your house, and paid every cent of the party from which I was expelled. I paused, letting that truth hang in the air, connecting the dots they had so willfully ignored. As of today, I concluded, looking from Mark's stunned face to Chloe's pale, vacant stare, that source has dried up. I'm going to sell this place, every cent of it, and with the money, I'm finally going to live my life, my own life, free of your demands, free of your disdain. There were no shouts. Not from me, no tears, not a single one, just the quiet, dignified justice of a truth they had never wanted to see, never wanted to acknowledge. You wanted me to disappear? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper, but it carried every ounce of my resolve. Wish granted. Now, my dears, learn to stand on your own 2 feet. I rose from the table, leaving the deed there, a testament to a power they had overlooked for too long. That day, they didn't just lose money. They lost the mother they never knew how to value. And I gained a future, a quiet freedom I hadn't dared to dream of for years. A future without them. The decision was made. The words spoken. I left the event venue that day, leaving the deed on the table, a stark reminder of a truth they had ignored. And I didn't look back. The days that followed were busy, not with their demands, but with my own quiet business. Selling the venue was surprisingly straightforward. It was a prime property, well maintained, and the offers came quickly. Each signature on the papers felt like shedding a layer of old skin, a quiet release. With the money, I found exactly what I was looking for, a small, cozy apartment not far from the coast, a place all my own, bathed in sunlight, with a balcony that promised calm. Moving in felt different from any move I'd made before. This wasn't about accommodating others, about proximity to Chloe or convenience for Mark. This was purely for me. My new balcony became my favorite spot. The morning sun, so gentle and warm, would stream in, waking me naturally. I started tending to orchids there. Delicate, beautiful things that required quiet patience and gentle care. There, amidst their fragile beauty, I found a peace I hadn't known in years. The first few weeks in the new place were, I won't lie, strange. The silence was vast, a cavernous space compared to the constant hum of their demands, the background noise of their lives that had filled my own for so long. But gradually, imperceptibly almost, that vast silence began to change. It was no longer a silence of loneliness, the echo of their absence. Instead, it slowly, surely, transformed into a silence of tranquility, a quiet companion, a space for me to breathe, truly breathe, for the first time in what felt like forever. I started a new routine, a gentle rhythm that felt entirely my own. Mornings with my orchids, afternoons exploring the small town, discovering hidden cafes and quiet corners. I even enrolled in a water aerobics class at the local community center. At first, I was hesitant, a little shy, but the water was so freeing, so light on my old joints. And there, I made new friends, ladies like me, mostly, with silver hair and warm smiles. They had their own stories too. Stories of loss, of change, of new beginnings. We'd laugh, share recipes, and talk about our gardens. It was a different kind of connection, one based on shared moments and genuine warmth, not on unspoken expectations or obligations. I never became a bitter woman. That was never my intention, never my way. I didn't feel resentment or anger anymore. What I became was something far more liberating, a woman free. Free from the constant, invisible obligation of being the support system for those who had so clearly, so painfully shown they didn't want me around. My purpose, for so long tied to theirs, was now purely my own, and it felt incredibly light. Of course, my grandson, Leo, he was never part of the reason for all of this, never part of their chosen neglect. My love for him, that pure, untainted affection, remained entirely intact. With part of the money from the sale, I opened a special investment account in his name. It's growing, steadily, quietly. And his grandfather's watch, Alfred's watch, the one I had tried to give him at the baptism. It's safe, tucked away in a bank vault, waiting for the day he is old enough, mature enough to truly understand its value. Not the financial one, of course, but the deeper value, that of love and memory, of lineage and connection. It's a different kind of love now, perhaps. A love that protects, not through constant intervention, but from a distance, with foresight and quiet planning, just as Alfred taught me. I don't know if Chloe and Mark learned their lesson. I truly don't. Sometimes. A fleeting thought of them drifts into my mind, a ghost of the past, but it's just a thought, quickly passing. The sharp sting of pain, the deep ache of disappointment, all of that has given way to something far gentler, far more manageable, a serene indifference. It's not uncaring, not exactly. It's simply free, free of the emotional entanglement. Today, I wake up and the first feeling is calm. There's no longer the low hum of anxiety, no nervous anticipation of waiting for a call that will inevitably be a demand, or simply won't come at all. My days are mine. I take care of myself, nourishing my body with fresh food, nourishing my mind with the books I love. I walk on the soft sand of the beach, feeling the gentle cool of the ocean breeze on my face, letting the waves wash away any lingering traces of the past. I discovered here, at 72 years old, that the very best company I could possibly have, the most reliable and comforting presence, was my own. I had dismantled the home they knew, the one I had quietly built around them, to finally build my own, a home for me, where I would never again be expelled. I look back now, sitting here by my window, watching the waves roll in and out, a constant rhythm. I see all those years stretching behind me like a long, winding road. And I see myself on that road, giving everything I could, my love, my time, my quiet strength, my hidden support. I gave until they no longer needed me, or at least, until they thought they didn't. And then, without a second thought, they discarded me. Just like that. It made me think deeply about so many things. I slowly turn, and I look directly at you, my gaze empathetic, because I know you might understand. And you? Have you ever felt that? That the pure, unconditional love you offer, the one you give freely, became just a convenience for those who received it? That it was taken for granted, simply expected, until you were no longer seen as a person, but as a resource? It's a strange thing, isn't it, to realize you've been seen as a function, not a whole human being. Especially when you get to my age. People sometimes forget that an older person, someone who might seem quiet or gentle, carries a whole lifetime of experiences within them. A lifetime of strength, of challenges overcome, of quiet wisdom earned through living. They forget that we are not just faded photographs of who we once were. We are still here. Still feeling every slight, every joy, every pain. Still thinking, still dreaming, still capable of so much. Still capable of love, yes, but also capable of taking care of ourselves, of standing on our own 2 feet, and of demanding the simple dignity we deserve. My journey, these past months, it wasn't easy. It was filled with so much pain, so much injustice, the kind that digs deep into your soul. But through it, through the breaking down and the rebuilding, I found something invaluable. I found my own worth again, a worth that existed entirely outside of what I could provide for others. I found my own voice, even if it was a quiet one, saying, "Enough." It taught me that respect isn't something that's given just because you're family or because you're old. It has to be a mutual thing, earned and given by everyone, to everyone. And dignity, that's something you hold on to fiercely, no matter what others try to take from you. It's about seeing the person, truly seeing them, not just the role they play in your life, not just what they can give you. So many elderly people I know feel this invisibility. They feel like their value has expired, like they're simply waiting for the end. But it hasn't. Our worth isn't tied to how much we can give or how much we're needed by others. It's just there, innate, unchangeable, like the sun rising every single day, regardless of whether you look at it or not, whether you acknowledge its warmth or not. And remembering that, holding on to that truth, it's been my greatest comfort. It's what allows me to sit here today, looking at this endless ocean, and feel truly, completely at peace. A peace I never thought I'd find again. A peace that finally, truly feels like home. Yes, it's a strange, heartbreaking thing, isn't it, to realize you've been seen as just a function, not a whole human being. Especially when you get to my age, people sometimes forget that an older person, someone who might seem quiet or gentle, carries a whole lifetime of experiences within them. A lifetime of strength, of challenges overcome, of quiet wisdom earned through living. They forget that we are not just faded photographs of who we once were. We are still here, still feeling every slight, every joy, every pain, still thinking, still dreaming, still capable of so much, still capable of love. Yes, but also capable of taking care of ourselves, of standing on our own 2 feet, and of demanding the simple dignity we deserve. my journey these past months, it wasn't easy. It was filled with so much pain, so much injustice, the kind that digs deep into your soul. But through it, through the breaking down and the rebuilding, I found something invaluable. I found my own worth again, a worth that existed entirely outside of what I could provide for others. I found my own voice, even if it was a quiet one, saying, "Enough." It taught me that respect isn't something that's given just because you're family or because you're old. It has to be a mutual thing, earned and given by everyone, to everyone. And dignity, that's something you hold on to fiercely, no matter what others try to take from you. It's about seeing the person, truly seeing them, not just the role they play in your life, not just what they can give you. So many elderly people I know feel this invisibility. They feel like their value has expired, like they're simply waiting for the end. But it hasn't. Our worth isn't tied to how much we can give or how much we're needed by others. It's just there, innate, unchangeable, like the sun rising every single day, regardless of whether you look at it or not, whether you acknowledge its warmth or not. And remembering that, holding on to that truth, it's been my greatest comfort. It's what allows me to sit here today, looking at this endless ocean and feel truly, completely at peace. A peace I never thought I'd find again. A peace that finally, truly feels like home. Now, about these stories, these little moments of truth we share, moments that help us see ourselves and each other a little more clearly. If you want to keep receiving real stories like this one, stories that remind us of what truly matters and the strength we all carry inside, pay attention. YouTube might be unsubscribing you without warning, so please take a moment to confirm you're still subscribed to the channel. And while you're there, just to make sure you don't miss any more of these quiet conversations, remember to activate that little bell. It's just a simple way for us to stay connected, to keep sharing these gentle reminders that even in the quietest moments, there's always strength to be found and always a way forward. Because knowing that we're not alone in these feelings